It's for the economy. There's oil itself, a totally miraculous substance that's been completely massaged into every aspect and system of our lives. And there's no one-to-one replacement available. No renewables can do an easy equivalent of what oil and other fossil fuels can do, which is why the changes we need to make are both so hard and so fundamentally difficult to imagine. Then there's the challenge of keeping hold of the narrative and movement momentum in the face of the deniers, the doubters, the apathetics, the corporate-owned media, and the myth of technological salvation. However, we are Vermont, and we are a powerful force for good in the world. We're more than that. We're like hobbits. This is practically the Shire. And we're an inspirational model. We know in many ways how to get stuff done. So if ever there was a critical moment in the history of humanity to step it up and change the business as usual model, now would be the time. And Vermont would be the place. Because the world can't do it without the United States, and someone has got to show the rest of the country how it's done. The thing is, though, we have to step it up too. We have to take a look at what our business as usual assumptions are and upend them completely. And what might some of those be? Well, a lot of you are town energy people. And that often involves working with your select boards on nuts and bolts projects to implement incremental change. You host retrofitting workshops and get solar on your schools and promote alternative transportation solutions. And that is all valuable, important, necessary work. The problem is that it's tiny, little, step-by-step change. And honestly, it's not even close to enough. Which means if you've been feeling like slow, progressive improvements aren't working, you're right. If you even think that there aren't enough people here today, you're right. We should be in the thousands. We should be legion. Plus, the current model you're working in still kind of isolates energy from every other aspect of how our communities function. So those of you on your town energy committee, you're stuck with the wrong name. You're not actually on your town's energy committee. You are on your town's life committee. You're on the committee which can help shape every single aspect of your community's future, and which needs to do it holistically, boldly, and with a wide open eye towards the common good. More business as usual assumptions can be found in some of the public response to the state energy plan. The Associated Industries of Vermont, the Vermont Energy Partnership, and other organizations recently held a press conference complaining that the energy plan focuses on climate change, renewable energy, and efficiency to such an extent that they have become goals in and of themselves. To which I say, duh. The Associated Industries of Vermont said, our concern is with any framework for legislation or rules that will complicate things for the economy, that will make energy more expensive, less reliable, and otherwise raise obstacles to commerce. Now, believe me, I am not vilifying the AIV here. Really, I'm not. No, honestly, I get that they're concerned about a healthy economic environment. We all are. I am. By the way, I am looking for a job, so see me afterwards. But the problem is that they're mired in a false paradigm. They're mired in the absurd idea that environmental health and economic growth are at odds with each other. They're mired in the ridiculous idea that true economic health can be achieved without environmental health. And even more than that, they're mired in the old, nay, I say Jurassic idea, that endless growth is not only good and desirable, but possible. Because it's not. At least not if you want a nice, healthy planet to live on. Another business as usual assumption can be found in the energy plan itself, with its interim reliance on natural gas and long-term reliance on forest biomass, i.e. burning lots and lots and lots of trees, as acceptable sources of energy. And I will submit to you that we need to draw a line in the sand. And we need to say that we will not derive our energy from anything which adversely impacts the human or natural communities from which it's extracted, and which releases particulates, greenhouse gases, and other toxins into our environment. And both of those are. So I challenge all of us to say no, even if it threatens a short-term gap. In fact, precisely if it threatens a short-term gap. Because that gap can serve as a potent motivator for finding truly green, truly sustainable solutions. That gap can be a creative gap, a highly pressurized crucible for innovation. That gap is part of our moral obligation to, for once, champion the health of the planet over our own sense of entitled need. Basically, it's time to move from incremental change, predictable change, to fundamental, breathtaking change. And you, each and every one of you, are fundamental change agents. Each and every one of you have the power to make an enormous impact on the long-term well-being of the places and the people that you care about. And that is really what this is all about. I titled this talk, Dancing to the Beat of the Great Green Heart. And I mean it. We do this work in spite of all the odds and worrisome statistics and grim predictions and cold February kitchen tables because of our deep, shining, emerald love for the world and for the people in it. We are the children of an utterly miraculous planet. A tiny aquamarine jewel floating in a sea of black velvet infinity. We are her warriors and her guardians. And we do this work because our hearts demand it. And we look at all those odds and statistics and predictions and we say, much like Gimli in Lord of the Rings, small chance of success, certainty of death, what are we waiting for? And really, there is no more waiting. This is the moment. A time when all over the world, folks just like us are reinventing the democratic process. They're building community and fostering widespread participation. They believe that true power comes from the will of the people, and their job is to bring enough people to the table to have an impact. They're teaching us about determination and commitment, and they're proving the truth of Paul Hawken's statement that if you look at the science around what's happening on the earth and aren't pessimistic, you don't understand the data. But if you meet the people who are working to restore this earth and the lives of the poor, and you aren't optimistic, you haven't got a pulse. So, back to Vermont. We've got this great governor, one of the few in the country who will not only speak the words climate change, but shout it from the rooftops. We've got a congressional delegation that's the envy of all non-crazy people everywhere. We have got brilliant, committed officials like Ms. Liz Miller, who is the subsequent recipient of this garland. Will help remind you of the work needing to be done. And Ms. Deb Markowitz, who I love because she's the only person I know who's shorter than I am. And all of the dedicated folks who serve under them and who have been waiting for years for the green light to really do something positive and far-reaching for the state. We've got hard-working groups like the VNRC and VPIRG and VEIC and 350 Vermont and all the transition towns. We've got organic farmers and permaculture innovators and slow money proponents and sustainability educators and green transportation advocates and socially responsible business leaders and all the colleges and universities with environmental studies programs. And we have got lots of really great locally made cheese. I could go on forever.